Aktivisterna mot 5G hävdar att det finns allvarliga hälsorisker med radiofrekvent strålning som avges av radio- och tv-apparater, mikrovågsugnar, wifi-nätverk och mobiltelefoner. De fruktar att fler telemaster kommer leda till mer av den sortens strålning och att den kan orsaka allt från ångest till epilepsi och hjärncancer.
Do we want this? Do we want these towers blighting our landscape? Do we need more radiation? Do we want driverless cars? Who's asked for this? There's been no consultation. We are going to be in a radiation soup that we cannot opt out of. So at the moment, we have choices. Once 5G is implemented, we no longer have any choice. We are in a soup of radiation that we cannot escape.
The voice current, or the audio frequency current, as it comes from the transformer, is amplified by vacuum tubes, such as these.
Människor har oroat sig för strålning i över 100 år.
In such a manner as to produce waves which travel through the air.
Läkare beskrev något de kallar radiofobi redan 1903. Då rörde det sig om personer som var rädda för radioapparater. På 1980-talet handlade rädslan om strålning från kraftledningar.
They're invisible and just about everywhere.
Do we play Russian roulette with people's children?
Should you be taking steps to keep your kids away from electromagnetic fields?
Microwave cooking units, like those in the NASA Lunar Receiving Laboratory.
There was a very big community concern when microwave ovens came out.
Keep your eye on the chocolate cupcake. It rises faster than you can eat it.
There was concern that food being cooked in it would be poisonous.
This is cooking by microwave, cooking without heat.
When mobile phones came out, there was concern in the public as we moved from first generation to second generation, or 2G phones, from 2G to 3G, 3G to 4G, and now 4G to 5G. We tend to get another wave of concern from the public, and that's not linked to important changes to what the actual technology is doing. So the actual physical agent, the radiation that's being emitted by these devices, is essentially the same as it's always been, and essentially the same as we've had around with radio, for instance, AM and FM radio for many years.
If I just get you to hold on to the front of the cap.
Rodney Croft förestår institutet ICNIRP som sätter gränsvärden för exponering för radiofrekvent strålning.
This is one of the most researched physical agents in the world. There are just thousands and thousands of papers out there that have gone into everything from epidemiology of cancer to simple, does it make you feel bad, agitated, cause you symptoms of any form.
Perfect. Okay, now what I'm going to do is get you to do the memory task that we were doing before. I'm going to leave the room.
I sitt labb på Wollongong University undersöker Rodney Croft hur radiofrekvent strålning påverkar människor. I det här testet simuleras strålning som avges av mobiltelefoner.
What we're really doing is setting people up, putting electrodes on their head, looking at the brain activity, the electrical activity caused by the brain, and whether it's being influenced by the mobile phones. When we started, we were looking for large changes in the brain, thinking it could be a real problem, but we just don't find those. We don't see any changes in brain cancer, which is something that we often hear activists complain about. Well, there's probably thousands of claims out there, and none of them have actually bore any fruit in terms of being able to demonstrate that there is an adverse health effect due to mobile phone usage.
Some people also say that, particularly with 5G millimetre wave technology, there is concern because it will mean more antennas all over the place and therefore more radiation out in the atmosphere that we will be exposed to. What do you think about that claim?
So far, the research suggests that it's just not the case. Generally, what you do is you have more antennas so that you can reduce the actual exposure. The further you are from an antenna, the more the antenna has to work, the more energy it has to pump into the environment. So tests comparing, for instance, the latest rollout of 5G against 4G finds very similar levels. And I must say the levels are generally about 100 to 1,000 times lower than are permitted by the guidelines. They're exceedingly small.
Sean, this is one of our labs, and we're the only company here in Australia that can do mobile phone testing, radiation testing for manufacturers.
I det här labbet i Melbourne undersöker man hur mycket radiofrekvent strålning som avges av exempelvis mobiltelefoner. Man använder sig av utrustning som efterliknar en människokropp.
This setup here represents, or it's simulating, a human head. We've put down a mobile phone at the bottom of the table here. That represents the ear. The phone's touching the ear. And we've got this liquid that simulates the body mass and tissue within our head. And this probe is going in at different parts of our head and measuring radio frequency energy coming out of the mobile phone, and how much of that is being absorbed by our body tissue.
Why do you need to do this test?
This is the test that mobile phone manufacturer need to do to make sure that radio frequency energy coming out of their phone is meeting the Australian government rules and regulation and limits set for those sort of energies.
So in other words, to make sure the phones are safe?
Absolutely, to make sure that the phones are safe to be used by general population.
Strålningen vi utsätts för kan indelas i två typer. Joniserande strålning som exempelvis röntgen och icke-joniserande strålning som den radiofrekventa från mobiltelefoner eller 5G-nätet.
We know that ionizing radiation causes a lot of health effects, not just cancer, but other effects as well. So, that's clearly something that people would be concerned about. Now, radio frequency is in what's called the non-ionizing wavelengths of radiation. So it doesn't cause, DNA damage to genetic material and so on. So, but I think people hear radiation and they think that, it's something that could potentially be harmful.